Hello, Andrea St. Amand. We'll tackle a big topic today, and there might be like follow-up stuff on this one. Let's talk about fear. I want to do some myth busting here over the next few videos about some of the myths we've been raised with in spirit, and what I hear a lot of times holding people that hold you back, or that there's something that's deemed to be a truth and it's just not a truth, but we've been raised to think something is true, and the whole purpose of that truth is to actually keep us small, and to keep us from um, really deepening our connection with spirit. So I want to start talking about some of that stuff, and I might trigger you. I hope I do, in fact. But one of the things I want to talk about today is fear. So many times I hear people say like, oh, I'm really afraid. Like, what if I start developing my intuition? What if I start developing my psychic abilities or my clairvoyance? What if I just focus on my clairvoyance? I'm afraid of what's going to come up. So what, and the reason we're afraid, every fear goes back to being afraid that something's gonna get us, right? Something out there is going to get us. And even in real life, when we're afraid of real life situations, we're afraid if we do something, that person's gonna retaliate, or we're somehow not gonna feel safe. And I want to acknowledge that fear is a real human emotion. It's real. It's a real thing. So we can't just say, oh, don't be afraid, and like get over it or move on. No, it's real. But what most of us have been raised with is that if we're afraid of something, that that reality that we're viewing through the lens of fear is truth. And y'all, it's not. So I want you to start thinking, when we have fear, fear is real. We're getting fear for a legitimate, it's in there. It's a real emotion. And also know that however we're perceiving that situation is through fear goggles, and most of us have fear goggles on. We don't even know we're wearing them. So we're seeing a situation. We're going to talk about haunted houses here in a minute, or in spirit. So we're seeing spirit, or we're seeing a haunted house, and we got our fear goggles on, and we don't even know that we're wearing fear goggles. So what we think we're seeing is the God's honest truth, and there's no other way of looking at it. So I want to challenge you today that you can take off the fear goggles. It's hard because they're kind of strapped on tight. It's hard, but we can take them off and then start to see that reality in different perspectives. So the thing with fear, this came up in a post, someone's comment recently, like with empathy. A lot of times with that, something's out there to get us. With empaths, we're real sensitive people. We're really afraid of overwhelm, right? We're afraid if I let my guard down, I'm going to get overwhelmed by everybody's energy. And I have so many empaths that I work with that they don't even know that there's a solution. So y'all, there is a solution to empathy. There is a solution to fear. You can work through this and take the fear goggles off, and see reality in a different way and deepen your connection with spirit. So a lot of times fear and ignorance go hand in hand, and unfortunately ignorance has gotten a bad rep. But there's nothing wrong with ignorance as long as you know, okay, I don't know anything about this, so maybe that's why I'm afraid of it. Because ignorance is, designed to, I feel like there's so much of society for the last thousands of years that have been designed to keep us in ignorance, to keep us in the dark, to keep us fear-based, so we actually don't go exploring. How many times have you guys been told, there's something scary about the darkness, and all darkness is the unknown, right? But there's something lurking under your bed as a kid, or there's something hiding in the closet, there's something in that dark haunted house that's going to jump out and get you. So we don't realize, though, that there's a solution to that we can work through it, and we can actually come out the other side and deepen our connection with spirit. So that's the first part of what I want to say. I did actually write some notes here so I don't get too rambly. The second thing I hear a lot, I knew there was something else I wanted to say about the somebody out there getting, or something out there getting you. Most of us who are sensitive as children, somebody has gotten us, right? So many psychics and empaths and mediums have suffered some sort of childhood abuse. Like somebody, when we were helpless children, victimized us or emotionally abused us. So many of us have suffered emotional abuse, And don't give that credit, because it's like, oh, well, it wasn't physical, it wasn't sexual. Emotional abuse is the stuff that lasts forever. And so some of us have been in emotionally abusive relationships, and you kind of can't put your finger on what's going on because emotional abusers are so brilliantly manipulative. And you're like, well, I think he's a good man, or I think, like, you can't get your arms around it. So that emotional abuse, that kind of feeling victimized, that somebody is going to take advantage of you and make you feel vulnerable, that's real. That is real. So a lot of us are coming into our spiritual growth and our spiritual path already having like these memories and this experience of victimization and helplessness, and we rightfully should be afraid of that. And a lot of us have done a lot of self-work on that, so we know we're not going to let that husband back in our lives, or we know we're not going to let that parent abuse us, or that sibling, or that friend who's not really a friend, right? We know that. And yet the fears rise up again on the spiritual level, because like, wait, if I start down the spiritual path, something else is going to get me. It's not going to get you. So there is nothing out there in spirit that is going to get you that is not a mirror of what you're already carrying inside of you. So think about this like in real life. When you are suffering depression, you sniff out depression in everybody around you. Like, you can sniff out who's depressed, and you might actually attract other depressed people into your lives because you're in a shared experience in that moment, right? Or in that time period. When you're really happy and joyful, you're going to attract happy and joyful people into your life. So let's take that into spirit. If you understand the spirit of depression within yourself, then you're going to see that aspect of that soul, that was a soul who at one time when they were incarnated also suffered depression. That does not mean that soul is still depressed, or that is going to get you and cause you depression. It is going to give you a momentary, with that empathy, it's going to give you that momentary sense of dread or anxiety. And once you acknowledge that in spirit, that spirit's like, oh, thank you for acknowledging that time in my life, and it drops away. Now, taking this to the haunted house example, because a lot of people are like, get freaked out by places. This is all true in haunted houses, in like haunted places. What's haunting is the human actions that took place in there, not the spirit world, okay? The spirits are very light, but what you're going to be feeling if you walk into a haunted house, like haunted mental asylum, oh my gosh, those places are so heavy, right? Terrible things happened in those places. Or if you walk into, Tracy mentioned the Tower of London. She actually sent me, I'm just going to out you here, she sent me a really funny PM, not funny, but really cool, that she actually as a child was so entranced by all the souls in the Tower of London that she wandered off the tour as a kid. She loved it. So it's those souls, though, who have experienced human suffering. So we're going to pick up on that. We're going to pick up on the memory of all that's residual energy. It's our scent that we left behind. We're going to pick up on the memory of suffering, the memory of pain, the memory of murder and betrayal and jealousy and anger. We're going to pick up on all that heavy stuff. But what we're picking up on are the memories. And to the extent a soul comes in and you're actually picking up on that, you're picking up on that memory. And it's a shared experience. There's a woman in the back of the jail. So, guys, I always go in the haunted jail, and I use that as my classroom to tease apart memories versus spirit world. And there's a woman in the back, third floor, octagon room. It's the creepiest place. And that woman is so mean. She is mean, mean, mean. Her soul is not mean. Her soul is light and fine. But what people pick up on when they go back there is, this was a mean, nasty woman. You're picking up on the memory, and you're actually resonating with her memory as a soul. But once you get through that, you realize, oh, her soul was just acknowledging that, yes, I was really mean in life. And it's not like that anymore. And as another example, but by the way, my experiences are because I've gone off the deep end and deepening my connection with spirit, like really like into mediumship and psychic stuff. And I know you guys watching this don't have to follow my path. You can deepen your intuition and deepen your relationships with your own soul and facing your own fears without like going way off like I have. And I'm saying that because two thoughts coming in at once. I have a really, really good friend who's very intuitive, and she's an intuitive coach. And but she couldn't do mediumship. She like did the energy of it for a little bit, and then like, this is too much. Like, I can't deal with grieving people. I can't deal with people who lost somebody in a tragic way. I just can't deal with it. Hey, fine, totally fine. But that's her. She's not. That's not the spirit world coming and attacking her. That's just her capacity to deal with other people's pain. And for me, I have. I don't know, I think it's like for years of being a lawyer and dealing with a lot of like harm that people cause each other emotionally, and also just all my own trauma. So the last last four mediumship readings I gave, not today's, I have 4 suicides back to back to back to back. And I'm really comfortable with suicide. Like, I'm really comfortable within my life. I'm really comfortable with it. In my experience, and therefore I have something where I'm allowing that soul to really come in and share that horrible experience with me. So other people aren't comfortable with it, so they're not going to attract those spirits, and they're not going to attract the clients that need that deep level of healing from a really tragic passing. So all this to just say, like, there's so much that we're afraid of, and really what we're afraid of is our own inability to handle a situation that comes up, because we're afraid of getting overwhelmed. We're afraid of someone else's depression. We're afraid of someone else's tragedy. We're afraid of someone else's grief, because we don't want that raised in us. So the more like we get comfortable with just, okay, emotions are emotions. I'm not going to judge them. Nothing is coming to get me except my own head. Oh, I know what I wanted to say. When I started going into the jail, literally every time I went in there at night by myself, I would say, "Don't scare me." And I was talking to myself, because I knew when I walked into that dark abandoned building, I was learning spirit energy versus heavy human residual memory energy. I didn't want my imagination to go crazy and make stuff up, and I didn't want to scare myself to death. So I would literally talk to myself the whole way through, "Don't scare me, don't scare me, don't scare me," telling myself that. Spirit never, of course, scared me, but that got me to the point where I was confident enough to, okay, nothing's going to scare me. I can now communicate with the love and joy and beauty of spirit. So do whatever it takes to make you feel comfortable getting through your own fear. I totally acknowledge that fear is real, but you don't assume that because you're looking at something through your fear goggles that what you're seeing is reality. Because a lot of people say, oh, there's this bad spirit. There's no bad spirit. That is a spirit who probably suffered depression, and you're picking up on that depression, or that's a soul that suffered something in life that it doesn't feel good to us. So kind of acknowledge that. This takes a lot of practice, of course. Takes working with a teacher. Take my course on intuition. You're going to learn all about this, or work with me directly. But when you start to learn your own soul and what your own soul feels like through a reading, or through, any type of reading, you start to like get more and more comfortable with your own stuff that's coming up, and you realize, okay, I have a lot of self-forgiveness in here. I got a lot to work with, and it's all okay. And I really don't have anything to be afraid of. What I will say that you do have to be afraid of is when you start getting that calling, you start getting that like, I'm feeling pulled to develop my psychic abilities, my mediumship. I'm being pulled to talk to angels. I'm being pulled to do something intuitive, but I don't know what it is, and yet I'm really afraid. Don't let that fear stop you, because if you do, your anxiety level is going to go through the roof, and you're actually going to cause yourself more fear. I'm going to read you a line in a book. It's by Christopher Rice. I absolutely adore him in real life and as an author. Anne Rice's son. He's brilliant. But the last line he wrote in his novel, The Heavens Rise, is such a motto. It's so poignant. I actually think it's the best last line in a book ever. And it says, "I have learned that magic withheld gives birth to nightmares." So when we're feeling called, when we're feeling pulled to our own magic and the magic of source, and we withhold it and we let fear, those fear goggles stay on, we let fear stand in our way, and we're ready to go, but we just don't do it, that's withholding your magic, and that's going to give birth to nightmares. So let me read this whole sentence now. "I have learned that magic withheld gives birth to nightmares, and so I have no choice but to stand back, open my heart and let the heavens rise. So I want all of you all to let the heavens rise in your own heart. Acknowledge your precious fear. It's real, but you can work through it. Don't let it hold you back. There are solutions. Step into your magic. Reach out to me. All right. Talk soon. Bye.